2nd May 2023, today, has been exactly 15 years since I got my first corporate job as a training coordinator for a multinational company. It was at the time a dream job. The next day, 3rd May, I found out I was pregnant with my first child. Now, my initial reaction was blank. I remember just laying on the bed in the guest room, blank. And then, of course, after I got over the blankness, it was anger. I was so angry at my husband. We had recently gotten married, I think 3 or so months. I had just gotten this job and I thought, we would wait a few years maybe before starting a family. These were all thoughts that were in my head, but of course I hadn't discussed that with him. But anyway, here I was lying there pregnant the next day after finally getting a job. I had been looking for a job since we got married in Kumasi. I finally got the job and then this happened. Well, thank God I found out a website called babycenter.com. This was the beginning of, a beautiful journey of discovering about the growing baby inside of me. I began loving this baby and it was just amazing. The rest, they say, is history. 15 years later, I have 2 wonderful children. Oh my goodness, I feel so blessed. I have a 14-year-old and a 12-year-old. Recently, while reflecting on this, especially because it's been that long, like every time 2nd May comes up, I remember this experience all over again. So I've been reflecting on this and I had an aha moment. So for today's episode of Mind Your Business, I want to share this with you. Hi, I am Ahmed Duncan, founder of the Fabulous Woman Network. Before 2015, I was that broke girl who was stuck in her own limiting belief of not enoughness. Marianne Williamson's words, "You are a child of God," woke me up. And then I sought help to work on myself. I still invest heavily in my personal development and so much has changed for me in the most incredible ways. My burning desire is to see an Africa in which women are empowered to thrive and impact people. I am a trainer, coach, author, social entrepreneur, and an event organizer who is passionate about helping others on their own personal development journey so that together we can all thrive as fabulous children of God. Mind Your Business is our weekly podcast which is free on YouTube. Here we share enriching content to help us all thrive as fabulous children of God. And if you prefer to work with me one-on-one, please go to my website, ahmedduncan.com/store to book a discovery call with. Welcome back. So one of my biggest worries at the time when I found out I was pregnant was, how were my superiors going to react? I mean, I had just gotten this job and my boss at the time, he really was so supportive of me, encouraging me, pushing me. So I was worried that how was he going to react? Besides, it was a new company in Kumasi. I worked in HR though, but I was myself very new in corporate Ghana at the time. I didn't know what apart from what's written in the labor law and everything, how would people react? I just didn't know. I was so unprepared for this experience, even though for so long I had been saying, way before I got married, I had been saying that I'll have a girl and a boy. They will be called Paris and Troy. This was way before I even found out. Had a boyfriend, like a serious boyfriend. And so it was just, I was confused. But eventually, with pregnancy, you cannot keep it forever. Eventually, it comes up. So I remember eventually, I don't know what happened that I mustered the courage to tell our then general manager that this was happening. I was like, oh, I had noticed that you were growing fat. I just thought you were, growing fat. I didn't know that that's what has happened. So anyway, he congratulated me, and then he gave me a series of, or shall I say, pieces of advice. Yes. And one of the things I remember clearly was that he encouraged me to continue working hard, to continue proving my worth, because actually at the time I was still on probation. So he encouraged me. He was really, really encouraging. I'm so blessed to have had that kind of boss in my first corporate job in Ghana. So anyway, bless him. This was how at least the job part of my superiors getting to know that I was pregnant went better than I was afraid of. Now, this whole motherhood experience was like a whole new world. I could not believe the things I found out when I got pregnant and I started learning about pregnancy and I started reading about it, listening to other women. This was when I found out that some women, when they are pregnant, they have to be on bed rest for 9 months. I was like, what? I found out things like pre-eclampsia, and just in case you don't know what that is, just Google it. It'll be interesting to know. So many things. Like I had no idea that people go through so much stuff. And I remember in the first few months, maybe 4 or so months into pregnancy, I went to the hospital that I had been going for, what's it called? Antenatal, prenatal. I always confuse it. Anyway, I went, and then one of the ladies saw me. I was like, is that Amma Duncan? She was shocked. I was like, yes. She was like, what happened to your color? I had become extra dark. I'm black and beautiful already, but this one, my skin tone was like of another country. And then you see my nose, see how big it is. It became extra large. I remember how my husband used to laugh at me that when I'm driving, I'm like behind the steer. I just, my whole body changed. The things that I used to be so proud of about, with regards to my body changed, that flat stomach and everything. Charlie, it was all gone. Hey! I remember looking in the mirror one time. This was about 6-7 months into the pregnancy, and I had all these lines on my stomach. Hey, stretch marks, real life. It was just coming. Bang. It was an experience. And I'm even so blessed. According to some of the stories I've heard about pregnancy, my goodness, mine was a walk in the park, and I am so grateful. But then it made me more aware that actually people go through stuff like, goodness, the kinds of experiences some people have when they are pregnant. Like, we should just clap for some of these women. Now, I remember the day of my delivery, the first delivery. It was in Accra. It was in Accra. It was that experience alone. Oh my God. Anyway, just a little bit of it. I remember laying there. I was in labor. The pains were coming every few, at the time, maybe after every 10-15 minutes or something. I've forgotten. But the pain was so much at a point. I remember laying there, and I had forgotten about the pain, and I kept wondering, hey, so is this what every woman goes through when they are pregnant? Is this the kind of pain they go through just to have the baby? I was shocked, and you know what? I felt sad, and even as I'm saying it, hey, I feel so sad for some. It was crazy. I was like, so you mean all these human beings that have been given birth to, this is the kind of pain that people went through? And apparently my pain was not even pain. I remember when I was about giving birth, the nurse said, oh, God knows I can't withstand pain, so he made mine fast for me. Even that, it was painful. And it's painful. And that was just one experience. Of course, you have the baby in your hand, and we forget the pain and the stitches, and oh my God. Then there is breastfeeding. I had read so much about pregnancy and breastfeeding and everything. I really wanted to do exclusive breastfeeding for 6 months. But I was also a full-time employee. I had to return to work after 3 months. One of the things I had to figure out was, how are you going to continue exclusively breastfeeding your child for 6 months. In fact, I actually wanted to even do, I think I did exclusive for more than 6 months, maybe. And then I actually continued breastfeeding my daughter until what stopped me was when I found out I was pregnant with my second child. That was 18 months after the first child. I found out in a funny way. Let me just say what happened that I found out. So my husband and I, we had gone for a party. I think it was for one of his colleagues or something. So there was another colleague that I knew. And then she saw me and asked my husband, why is Amma wearing heels when she's pregnant? And it was like, it was a laugh, like, no, I wasn't pregnant. I said, she insisted, she's pregnant. I said, no. Well, that month, it turns out my period delayed. Eventually, I went to the hospital and checked. Hey, I was pregnant. I cannot for the life of me understand how this woman, this lady, could just look at me and tell that I was pregnant. At the time she said this, I may have been about 6 weeks or so pregnant. Or maybe less, maybe even 3 weeks. Hey, this woman, anyway, that's not the import of the story. But then, yes, the only time I stopped breastfeeding my first child was when I found out that I had the second child. So these were some of the things I had to figure out. How do I go to work and still be breastfeeding and all? And it was quite an experience, man. I'm not going to go into how I was able to navigate and some of the embarrassing moments and some of the, oh God, no, that's not the import of it. One other thing before I even get to the import of it was, after having the kids, there were things like sometimes being at work and then I would be called that my child was sick, she or he is warm, and have to quickly rush home to their school, pick them, send them to the hospital. All these experiences, hospital runs and all, they were very new to me. I did not realize that there's a group of people called mothers who sometimes had to go through that until I experienced it. It was very foreign. And yet I had to navigate it. Listen, this is how people do it. You have to figure it out and then do it. You know what? My awareness about some of the women issues catapulted to a whole new level after I became a mother. And this is the import of all this blabbing I've been doing for the past few minutes. I could never have understood what women went through, or even had, all I had was just a tip of the iceberg. But that really opened my mind because apart from my own experiences, I became more curious. I asked questions. And so hitherto, when people, like women would come to me with excuse duties and, oh, today she's sick, tomorrow she's sick. When the excuse duty came out, I've been like, hey, today too you are sick. After that, I wasn't asking such, excuse me to say, I wanted to use a certain word, but I won't. I became more understanding. Because now I was exposed to these other experiences that I didn't know before. I truly didn't know. I don't know how. Maybe there are other people who may know because they hang around women, or other people who have given birth. But me, I was not exposed, and which is funny because my mom was a midwife, but I never knew that these were some of the things, And then now I became more compassionate. In fact, my understanding and awareness even further lifted to another level when I started sharing stories about women. Hey, this is when I heard diseases like metroisis or what. Hey, I was like, oh my God, the way God created this woman, women, our bodies, it's a whole new world, And what's really, 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 what's the word? The stroke that broke the camel's back, or the something, the thing, was another aha moment I had. Before I get to the aha moment, let me share the experience of now after birth. I've had my Paris and Troy. I'm like, God, I am done with children. I now want to just focus on raising them and building my career, raising my family and all these other things. And so, thank you, Jesus, but I'm done with babies, like I wanted Paris and Troy. We've gotten them, so can we move on? And so I had to explore different contraceptive options. And from some of my friends, IUD was the safest. I mean, before then I had tried a few other things. Okay, maybe one other, which I've forgotten, I think it was patch. This was earlier on. And so the patch, although it was great for me, was like I had to remember too much. But when I heard that the IUD, I could wear it for a whole, like 10 whole years, I was like, I'll go for it. And I had these friends who had done it. So I thought, oh, it's easy peasy lemon squeezy. A few months after baby 2, I went to the hospital, one of the biggest hospitals in the country, to have my IUD fixed. I just left work and went casually because I thought it was a simple procedure. I mean, my friends didn't make, like as they said, oh, it's a bit uncomfortable, but it's okay. And I was like, oh, if everybody has done it, surely I can also do it, right? I went alone, I was in my suit. Okay, so they took me to this room, this woman, and then asked me to lay on the bed. One of those beds, like the ones that we use to give birth. Please forgive me, I don't know these terms. So I lay on the bed, open my things, and then this woman comes. 1 minute I hear this woman like some creaking, and then this metal bucket hits the floor, ching, and then I hear all these metal tools being pulled out. There's water in the bucket. I'm like, hey, what is happening? Well, this is the biggest hospital, one of the biggest hospitals in the country, so hopefully I'm safe. But it was just the woman and I, lifting metals, pulling things, doing, hey. Then they shove something into my and then they roll something and this metal is creaking. Hey, what is happening? And then this woman pokes and removes, pokes and does things down there. Hey, sister, it was not a funny joke. And it was painful. It was uncomfortable. I had no idea what was happening. But I was just laying there quietly, praying to God that this will be over and that if everybody has done it and has come out alive, so could I. And besides, if I could push a baby, come on, I thought this should be easy, right? But then I remember after the procedure, I thought to myself, Amma, they said this thing, you can wear it for 10 years. I am wearing it for life. That's what I said to myself. But then, of course, 10 years eventually came. 10 years came a couple of years ago after wearing it, and I knew I had to change it because it was going to expire. I didn't know what effect it would have on my body. So I spoke to one of my doctor friends. He said, you need to have it removed and replaced. I was like, hey, this experience again. He was like, oh, don't worry, I'll do it for you. He's a trusted gynecologist, one of the best in the country. So we booked the appointment. I went to him at a private hospital. Now, even though this experience, in terms of how, like, the first experience was like a thriller movie, but this one was different. I felt safe, but it was still uncomfortable. Shoving things, removing, open, close, do this, all in my, inside. It was not a funny joke. I remember laying there. I felt sad. I felt sad at some of the things that we have to do just so that we can do some things in peace. I mean, these are natural things that God gave us to enjoy. Why does it have to be so painful to prevent some things? Hey, let me take a sip. Anyway, I went through this experience feeling sad and all that. But something clicked for me. Later on, I was on Instagram, and one of the women I admire, a woman in tech, was talking about IUD and the experience of it. And she sounded upset. And she was talking about how these things are done to women's bodies. I mean, come to think of it, in the jiggy, there are two people involved. But why does the woman have to be the one going through all these uncomfortable procedures just to make sure that the two of you can enjoy your jiggy in peace? And that was when it hit me that, oh my God, what if there are other ways, possible ways of making this less uncomfortable, but we just don't know because maybe nobody has researched into it. I mean, these people who are usually doing the research into these women's bodies and women's issues, I don't know, but the question is, how many of them are actually women? How many of them understand the experience of it so that they can make it easier for us? You know? And that was when it hit me. No, we need more women in key places. We need more women at the table, period. Because they understand. And when I say more women, I don't mean more Amadankans. More women with diverse backgrounds, diverse experiences. Like I said earlier, my pregnancy was a walk in the park. We need other women with different kinds of experiences, not only related to pregnancy, but in so many other diverse situations that we find ourselves as human beings. We need more women because that's the only way people can understand. Let me just say this last thing, which has nothing to do with me, but this movie, Hidden Figure. So Taraji's character, for instance, working in, I think it was NASA or something, very smart at that point, I think she was a computer. She was so smart doing all these calculations to send people up to space. But when she needed to use the bathroom, it was a struggle for her. Why? Because the bathroom was designed for men. See how men use the washroom and see how we do even the bowl and everything. It was not designed for women because, of course, it was a male-dominated office at the time. So they didn't understand. And so once you haven't had the experience, you haven't been in the shoe of the person, it is really, really difficult to understand what that person is dealing with, period. And this is why I feel that actually, you know what? We need to have more women at the table. And as I was reflecting about this whole concept of more women at the table, I had a realization. I was like, actually, Amma, you know what? You have created your own table. You have created your own table of supportive women, where women come together, we share our stories, we support each other, we are praying with each other, helping each other. And where did we create this table? In Kumasi. At least it started from here. Yes, we may have gone other places, but it started from here. And that thought even excited me because often I hear, oh, when will you come to here? When will you come to there? I'm like, no. What if you also created your own table in whichever corner that you are in? One of my sister friends has a group called Female Entrepreneurs Global. They've been having conferences, and I found out that their next conference will be in Obuasi. I was so happy because, you know, there's a huge field of souls all over. Not all of them can, one, travel to Accra for conferences or even can afford it or maybe even understand the import of these events you are having and why they need to be there. And so bringing it to them matters. And so I was so happy and I applaud them and I know it will be a smashing success. And so as I was thinking, yes, I have created my own table, but others can also create in your own corner. What can you do? What is the Lord laying on your heart to do to ensure that more women have more access to resources, to information, to support, so that we can thrive and grow and sit at bigger and better tables, whatever that may mean. So today, I know I've been blabbing for long, but please indulge me. Actually, this was not even the episode supposed to go today, but I needed to record this fast because I felt the inspiration to do this. I've actually had this inspiration yesterday at church. 2 days ago at church, because you are watching this tomorrow. I'm recording this today, you are watching it tomorrow. Am I confusing you? Anyway, my point is I needed to get this message across that we really, really need more women at the table. This is not about women empowerment, so we are bigger than men. What is that? I don't even understand what that means. This is not about us being bigger than anyone. This is about us getting access to what we need access to information, to support, so that we can make informed decisions, so that we can have the power to control the things that that should be in our control, and we can have a say, and then we can make choices. If I'm empowered, I can decide, okay, in this season of my life, I want to, push in my career area. In this other season, I want to just relax and chill. Or maybe I want to take care of my children, or I want to do whatever that I feel is the right thing for me. But at the time that you're making this decision, you would have the resources, you have the support, you have access to the information, and then you choose whatever is right for you. Because I really don't believe that one size fits all for women. Like, there's so much diversity even amongst us. It won't be fair to design one thing for everyone. This is why it is important to push more of us. I don't know how you will do it. Either you create your own table, or you find a seat at the table, or bring along your seat, or get the door open for you. I don't know how it's going to be, but my message to you is this. Please muse on this. What does a seat at the table mean for you? And how are you going to create it, or how are you going to get it? I really, really pray that we all find it in us to do this. And Bibiabe fine, as we say in Ghana, everything will be fine. So this has been today's episode of Mind Your Business. The title is simple. We need to be at the table, period. Until I come your way, same time next week on Mind Your Business. Ta, toodles, enjoy your meal. Mind Your Business is one of our free resources available on YouTube. And if you prefer to work with me one-on-one as your coach, as a consultant, or as a trainer, it starts with a discovery call. Head to amaduncan.com/store to book a discovery call with me.